Hey everyone, and welcome to this fireside chat. I'm here with Brent Bergevin, VP of Transport at Gemini Motor Transport, and it's part of the Loves company. And we're going to sit down and talk today a little bit about private fleet management, but we're going to dive in a little bit deeper and also consider, some of the nuances of what we're having to deal with over the last couple of years. So, without further ado, Brent, welcome and thanks for coming out today.
Hey, Zach, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit, earlier about your relationship with Loves itself. So I think we need to set up for the audience just what your relationship is with the parent company, so we can further understand what you've been dealing with here over the last 12 months or so.
Great. Yeah, I'll give you a quick snapshot. So, Gemini Motor Transport is a wholly owned subsidiary of Love's Travel Centers. We're one of a number of companies that they own. They're my platinum customer. We started hauling back in 2001, so it's actually our 20th anniversary. And Love's has been in business, I think, 56 years now. But started out with 4 trucks, 6 drivers, and have a little bit of growth there. So we're up to about 1,400 drivers and 900 trucks now.
Man, that's some interesting growth. So, so you said that Lowe's was your, platinum customer, kind of set up what that means for our audience here. I know a lot of private fleets, some they have different relationships with the parent organization. Some are completely independent. Some are, have that intermediate relationship where part of the fleet's dedicated to them and the other part is kind of like outsourced. Where do you fit in that spectrum?
So we're not truly a private fleet. So we're going to be a for hire fleet. Platinum customer means if I have truck time, they're going to get first call. But I have relationships with probably 150 carriers across the nation because I can't handle it all. And with the different issues that are out there in field today, wait times, shortages, refineries going down, trucks breaking, drivers quitting, whatever it may be. COVID has been a real interesting year. So I'm always giving loads out to different carriers in certain markets to keep our stores going. So that's going to be the first thing. They're going to get the majority of the truck time. But then we have a lot of business on the side that we're doing that's creating utilization of the equipment because if we have drivers and we have equipment, someone out there is looking for someone to haul a load. And so I have a lot of relationships with a lot of companies. We're going to haul jet. We're going to haul all the NGLs. I got 20 hard shell tankers hauling propane mostly. But we're going to haul gas, diesel, jet, biodiesel, ethanol. Got a methanol fleet, DEF fleet. We got box trailers hauling tires and parts for our garages through our DCs. So we got a little bit of flavor and a whole bunch of different type business.
So, I mean, you guys essentially haul a pretty wide gamut of freight and commodities out there. It kind of shocked me when you told me about hauling tires. So, y'all do have a little bit of a box component as well.
Yeah, we have about 100 box trucks that you'll see running up and down the highway also that are Love's branded. And those are going to be mostly for our tire care business. We have 6 tire recap centers across the nation. We make our own tires to support that business. And that's a growing business, actually growing very fast. We also package our own DEF and make our own DEF, basically. We have 19 plants across the country that make DEF fluid, which is another very big component of diesel trucks today.
Now, expand on what DEF is for our audience.
Okay, so DEF is diesel exhaust fluid. So all diesel trucks that are sold today have to have DEF fluid. And that's think of your catalytic converter on your car, which takes the exhaust and turns it into water vapor. DEF fluid is sprayed into the exhaust on a diesel truck and basically does the same thing, turns it into water vapor and cleans it up. It's a pollution control device. But that's growing bigger and bigger every year as trucks are retired. Pre 2001 trucks, that's when it really started. As those are retired, 2007 trucks, as those are retired and new trucks are out there, it's just going to create more DEF usage. So pretty much all truck stops out there today, all the major chains are going to have DEF at the pump with the diesel pump. And it's a very important component of trucking.
So, you do have a lot of specialization. So this probably does kind of insulate you from a lot of other, the kind of those bigger shipper markets, the general commodities, the consumer products. How has the last 12 months, impacted your business and your business model? Like, especially like highlight any changes that you've seen over the last 12 months that you think have been, significant or, we're going to keep permanent, or you think that maybe some that might disappear after the pandemic eases?
Well, yeah, pandemic, right? So whoever thought we'd have heard those terms in our lifetime to this extent, but it's been hard, and the gasoline business at the stores, suffered greatly, but the diesel really didn't because it was more important than ever to get supplies to the right places, and that everything moves by truck. As much as some people don't like to admit it, and you know, electric trucks and hydrogen trucks and all these things that you hear about today, diesel is what runs the country. And down the road, will that change? Yeah, but it ain't going to be anytime quick. But yeah, it's been tough, and it's been tough to find drivers. And we're constantly hiring, we're constantly growing and adding trucks. We'll add probably 150 to 200 trucks to our fleet this year. So we're going to hire, 400 to 500 drivers this year. So it's a great place to work. We have very low turnover, according, way below industry averages. I think industry averages are going to be in the 80 to 100% type zone, and we've been very fortunate how we run and how we pay and how we benefit. We're below 20%. So we get drivers here and we keep drivers here, and we got a really good program for drivers.
Yeah, that's I know that I've heard specifically a lot of anecdotal evidence of the driver recruiting issue being a big problem, especially in those the initial phase of the driver recruiting, as the schools being shut down, and the like. So explain your experience with some of these driver recruiting, because a lot of the drivers that get into your sector, come with a little bit more experience, correct?
Not necessarily, but yes, mostly. Plus, they're also going to have a hazmat license and taker endorsement. So you got to have those two to drive a tanker. So usually, you'll probably find this interesting. Also, I haven't spent a penny in ads or recruiting or anything. Almost 80-90% of our drivers come through internal recommendations. So we pay drivers, our existing drivers, to recruit drivers for us, and we pay them a recruiting bonus if they bring drivers. So the best drivers in your fleet are going to be people that want to come to work for you, and most drivers ain't going to recruit a driver that they don't want to drive with, or because we have a lot of slip seating, right? We're not a sleeper fleet, we're really a day cab fleet. So almost all of our drivers come from internal referral, which is, again, plays into our whole program with the low turnover and stuff, because they pretty much know who we are before they get here.
Yeah, that's a good method, especially using the internal, because they're going to be your best salespeople
Exactly
for
right.
what you do, especially if they like coming in every single day. So,
They're not going to bring a brother or a relative or a friend or a neighbor into the company and then come back and say, what the hell did you do? Recruit me to these guys? They're bozos. So it really works out great, and it's been a great tool for us.
have you guys seen any kind of inflationary pressure, costs in any other regard in operations? Obviously the drivers maybe on your end. Highlight any increased costs that you guys have encountered, or maybe just things that have had upward pressure on your overall operation.
Well, I think all of us can relate to it in life, but prices usually don't go down anywhere, right? So the cost of equipment is up, the cost of repairing equipment is up, the cost of technicians is up, cost of drivers is up, cost of insurance is up, fuel is up. I can't tell you one cost that's gone down. It's all up, and so yeah, you're constantly facing those pressures, and yet everybody wants a great rate. So you got a lot of people out there that are bidding for that same work that you're trying to get. Even with Loves, I mean, with my platinum customer, I still have to give them a very competitive rate, because we're going to compare rates in those markets all the time. And if I'm not competitive or I'm high, I'm going to lower my price, because that's my platinum customer. They're going to get a great price. But everything is going up, and it's harder and harder if you don't have any kind of size to your fleet. If you're running your own truck, that's not probably too bad, but if you have a really good dedicated customer. But if you're running that you know, tweener fleet somewhere between, you know, probably 25 to 100 trucks, it gets tough unless you have a really dedicated customer that you can count on, because your costs are not going to go down. They're going to constantly go up.
Yeah, how much of your fleet is, kind of dedicated and in that consistent run space?
Well, I'd like to tell you all of them, to one customer or another, but you know, the utilization is everything in this business. Also, if the wheels ain't turning, you ain't making money, right? So you got to have that revenue coming in. But our utilization rate is going to be in the mid 50s, which again is very high for trucking. Most utilization is somewhere between 40 and 45. But with sleeper fleet, when you're slip seating, that really helps your utilization rate to one guy runs, you know, a 10, 11 hour shift. The next guy comes in. So if you're running 20 out of 24 hours a day, that's very good utilization rate.
Yeah, that is pretty strong. Have you seen any dramatic changes over the last 12 months with any of that, or has it been pretty consistent for?
It's been pretty consistent. Like I said, the gas took a downturn, but diesel stayed strong. And that's where we branched out into some other areas and found some other business to keep those trucks and those drivers moving. We never stopped hiring. We never stopped buying equipment, expanding the fleet. And we won't. We see a tremendous opportunity to keep growing, and constantly are finding new customers and looking for new customers. Again, word of mouth is awesome because a driver will come in and call me and say, "Hey, I was talking to another driver at the rack, and you know these guys are reducing trucks, or this customer is looking for more help, or whatever." And you know, make a few phone calls, find someone, and pretty soon you're hauling a couple loads for them.
Yeah. So, have you seen that happen more frequently over the last year? Like with some of these other companies struggling, you get to reap some of the benefit, maybe buy pieces of equipment or take advantage of some of the drivers more often than you did in years past?
Yeah, you know, this year has probably been weird for 100 different reasons, right, with the COVID. But you know, there was a quite a time there, probably, you know, when the COVID was really spiking, where if your company had 50 drivers and you know 15 of those are out with COVID, well, someone's looking to help with that business. So I'd say we were able to come into a couple different markets and help out. But it's just been a weird year.
Yeah, right.
It's been a weird year.
Yeah, I think that's an understatement to say the least. Are there any kind of trends or patterns that you think are going to persist into, obviously we're not fully done with the pandemic by any means, but what do you think are some of the permanent changes or permanent trends or semi-permanent? I don't think anything is really fully permanent, but what are some of the trends do you think will persist, after, we get through a lot of the restrictions and everything starts to swing back to a more, I don't want to use the word normal, but a more stable pattern?
I think it's the same old, same old. I mean, if you take care of your customer, they're going to take care of you. I've really lived off that motto for running Gemini for the last 20 years. So when we don't try to go into any business if we're not going to be able to be successful at it, and we're not going to be able to be good at it. A lot of times, when we first entered the hard shell or the propane tankers, you learn a lot of lessons during that. You learn the good, the bad, the uglies, but you got to stay true to your customer and take care of your customer. And not every day is pretty, but you got to be open and honest and tell them what's going on, why you maybe are failing, or why you're not able to get that load for them that day. And I think the more that we do that, the more they start trusting us, and know that if we come to them with an issue, it's a legit issue. But that's pretty much the mantra with us, is we're going to take care of the customer to the best of our ability. And if for some reason we can't, we're going to tell them, hey, we're not going to be able to do this today. How can we work around this? What can we do to make it better?
Yeah, that proactive communication never hurts.
It's huge. I
Especially,
mean, because that's one of the biggest problems you have is people don't communicate.
right.
If I've got a carrier load that I give out to a carrier for a load of gas to a store, and it doesn't show up in time and we run out, well, that's a big impact. So odds are, if that guy didn't communicate and tell us what's going on, probably won't haul any loads for us any longer.
Right. Yeah, and I know that a lot of the other industries, you guys primarily haul in the gas and the fuel section, but a lot of other sectors have found this out the hard way when they run out of inventory and the truck's 2,000 miles away, or maybe the freight is overseas or something like that. Have you seen customers getting more proactive with you as they kind of are worried about inventory levels or fuel levels being available for their customer base.
Absolutely. We're in a just-in-time inventory world now. No one wants to store a lot, right? And that includes fuel too. So as we went through that ice storm, and we're really having product shortages across the country still in selected markets. But for a month ago, it was really bad. You had half the refining capacity down in the Gulf Coast, which supplies 50-60% of the country. And when those ain't shipping on pipelines, and those refineries aren't running, sooner or later, product's going to run out. It's just the way it works. So calling those customers where we buy our fuel, our Musket team down in Houston, being proactive and looking for fuel and buying spot deals, even shipping in rail on rail cars and finding rail cars that have a market. So we'll pretty much do anything to buy the fuel and keep our stores running. But a lot of that's relationships too. So if they do have some extra that pops up, we're probably going to be one of the first ones they call, because they know that we can take it, we can move it. And they do that today. So someone might have a pipeline batch coming in and they need some room at a terminal. They'll call us and say, hey, if we give you a better price here, can you move this product for us? And if you scratch theirs, they're going to scratch yours down the line. So that's it's all relationship building and taking care of each other.
Amen to that. So, the winter weather event that you just mentioned was probably one of the biggest, impacts that we've seen on on all around trucking, as well as supply chains here in the last several months. The pandemic obviously set the table for that. But how big of a deal was this event in your perspective? I mean, we saw it, the ripples throughout the industry, and we're still feeling some of that capacity tightness in all these other modes. But your specific specialty should have probably felt this pretty significantly, correct?
It was the worst since Katrina. So we've seen a lot of hurricanes since Katrina, but those are isolated to small pockets. This affected the whole country because all the refineries were down. And all your pipelines that are coming out of Houston, whether it's Colonial or Enterprise or whatever it may be, they weren't shipping, and so those supply a big chunk of the country. And if they're not shipping, there's only so much storage. You got to keep hauling. The stores will keep running. It's not like they close up and everybody parks their trucks because there's a fuel shortage. I mean, they're going to buy fuel. They got to run. They got loads to do. They got time constraints. But this was a massive disruption to the fuel network across America.
Yeah. Are you still feeling these effects today?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's painful. It really is painful. Along with, there's a shortage of tanker truck time out there today. So everybody's looking for tankers. And along with the product shortages come massive delays at the racks that they're in. So when you have a driver in Dallas Fort Worth that's usually getting 3 to 4 loads in their 11-hour shift, and now all of a sudden today they get 1 load because they're waiting in rack lines for 4 hours. That's a big problem. You just don't have extra capacity. You can throw more trucks and trailers at it, but it's just a longer line at the rack, which again further backs you up. So it's been a massive issue. Not to mention 10 degrees below weather, and drivers are human too. People don't think so sometimes, but our driver force is critical to us. And if their water pipes froze and they flooded their house, well, you know what? You got to stay home and take care of that. You can't come in today. So there's a lot of sidebars that people forgot, that don't realize. They just think trucks are automatic. They're running on a Tesla remote control or something, but it's not the way it works.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, to me, it sounds like you guys didn't have any real insulation whatsoever from the overall market, even though you're in tanker. A lot of the dry van side gets a lot of the pub. Reefer market gets a little bit, as well as flatbed. But it sounds like you guys had a lot of similar experiences, just because you're in kind of this niche, or more of a niche area with the tanker side. You guys did not necessarily get away with something that was significantly different from the broader for-hire market, correct?
I'll tell you, it was worse, because there's a limited number of racks you can load those trucks at. There's a limited number of places you can go, and you have to be carted. You can show up at a Walmart warehouse in a dry van, You don't have to be carded to get loaded there. You just have to have an appointment time. Well, you have to be carded, so you just can't run tankers anywhere. You have to have cards, and that takes time to set those cards up and go through the classes and stuff. So I would tell you it's probably one of the hardest hit trucking industries by far.
Yeah. Well, man, that's something else. So, hopefully we're here towards the tail end of some of this capacity disruption and
I hope so. I
operational
need a
disruption.
vacation. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It seems to be never ending at this point. Well, Brent, thank you so much for joining us here today. And thanks
Thank
for
you
all
for
those
having me. I
insights.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, and you guys over there at Gemini Motor Transport, keep hauling away. You got any last messages or any predictions for the next couple of months on what to expect?
I think it's going to get better. The refineries are coming back up. I think most of them are back up, or they're about to be, and it's just going to be filling that pipeline network and getting those tanks filled back up at the terminals. Hopefully, we have a really good summer. Stay away from the tornadoes. Stay away from the hurricanes this fall. But it's a never-ending cycle, right? So then we'll be back into winter, and who knows what we got. So just have to hope that we don't get a hurricane hit in the wrong area, and we have a bad deal. But this is an interesting business for a lot of different reasons. But bad weather and bad storms can throw a wrench in there that you didn't expect. But I think it'll get better, and we'll be good to go, and we'll keep driving and keep supplying.
Well, thank you so much for that. I like that optimistic outlook. Thanks again, Brent, and thank you all for watching. And stay tuned for more from the Enterprise Fleet Summit.